Hi, and welcome to English-Fabule. Are you learning English? Great. Let's learn English with a very interesting story. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment. Let's get started.
Hong Kong recently faced a terrible fire. This big fire happened in a place called Tai Po. It was a very sad event for the city. People say it was the worst fire in many, many years. The flames moved very fast through a tall building. Many lives were lost because of it. At least 83 people have died from this fire. Many other people are still missing. Their families are very worried. This event has made everyone in Hong Kong feel very sad and shocked. After the fire, police began to investigate what happened. They looked for answers. The police found out that a construction company was working on the building at the time. This company was doing repairs. The police then arrested some people. These were the bosses of the construction company. They believe these bosses might be responsible for the deaths. People are now asking important questions about building safety and how construction work is supervised in the city. There is a lot of public anger and sadness. This story will help us understand the events of that day. It will explain how such a terrible fire could happen. We will look closely at what caused the blaze to spread so quickly. Also, this story will show the bigger problems that this fire has revealed. These problems are about how buildings are built and maintained in Hong Kong. It will also look at the rules for safety. This fire is a sad reminder that safety rules are very important for everyone. 2. A normal day ends in fire. The fire started in the middle of the afternoon on November 26, 2025. It began on what seemed like a normal weekday for the many people living in Wong Fuk Court. This was a group of 8 tall residential buildings located in Tai Po, Hong Kong. People were doing everyday things inside their homes. Some elderly residents were resting. Children were doing homework, and workers were finishing their day. Outside, renovation crews were busy working on the building exteriors. Everything felt calm and ordinary for the residents. Around 2:51 p.m., emergency services received the first reports of flames. People in the area began to see fire. The blaze began on the external scaffolding of one tower. Local news later identified this specific building as Wang Chong House. This tower, like all the other buildings in the estate, was covered in a temporary structure. It had traditional bamboo scaffolding wrapped around it. Green protective mesh also covered the whole exterior. This was all part of a large repair project that had started in the middle of 2024. Within minutes, the flames climbed the building very quickly. Videos shared online showed a column of fire racing straight up the side of the block. The bamboo poles and the green netting caught fire one after another. Burning debris fell from the upper floors. Sheets of flaming mesh collapsed onto lower balconies and the ground below. The fire was growing fast and becoming more dangerous. As winds picked up, the fire spread even more. It moved horizontally from the first tower to the neighboring blocks. By nightfall, 7 of the estate's 8 tall buildings were affected. Each of these buildings had 31 stories. Huge plumes of dark, thick smoke were visible from many kilometers away, making the sky dark across the city. The once peaceful afternoon sky was now filled with smoke and fire. This became a very serious emergency for the entire city. Authorities confirmed that the fire had been raised to a number 5 alarm. This is the highest severity level in Hong Kong's fire classification system. It meant the situation was extremely dangerous and required the most urgent response from all emergency services. A normal day in Tai Po suddenly ended in a terrifying fire, spreading rapidly across the residential complex and causing great fear in the community. 3. Many people are hurt. The number of dead people grew quickly. At first, dozens were confirmed dead. Hundreds more were reported missing. As rescue work continued for days, the true scale of the disaster became clear. By Thursday, at least 83 people had died. This included one firefighter who was working to save others. 51 victims died at the scene. 4 more passed away later in the hospital due to their severe injuries. Many others were hurt, with 76 people needing hospital care, including several firefighters. Some were in critical condition. Hong Kong's chief executive, John Lee, stated that 279 people were reported missing at one point. These reports came from worried family members and neighbors. Officials said it would take time to compare these lists with records of evacuated people and hospital patients. Rescue teams searched the burnt buildings carefully. They worked even after the worst flames were controlled. Some fires continued to burn on upper floors of 3 towers for more than 24 hours. This showed how intense the heat was and how difficult it was to reach affected homes. Emergency workers made some brave rescues. News reports told of one survivor found in a stairwell many hours after the fire began. Trapped residents, pets, and elderly people were carried out from smoke-filled corridors. More than 140 fire engines and over 800 firefighters and paramedics were at Wang Fuk Court. Commanders described the working conditions as extremely dangerous. The insides of the buildings were very hot. Scaffolding fell and debris dropped. This made it hard for crews to move to upper floors. Ladders could only reach part way up the 31-story buildings. Many firefighters had to climb through stairwells full of thick smoke and narrow passages. A senior fire official explained that the high temperatures and falling debris made rescue hard. Drones were used to find the fire's spread and look for survivors. Streets were closed to keep people safe from falling burning pieces. Many residents escaped with only the clothes they wore. They moved through dark stairwells filled with smoke. Older tenants could barely see. They felt their way down, holding on to hot handrails. Some said they heard no alarms. Others realized their building was on fire only when smoke already filled their homes and hallways. One resident saw an orange light through a small gap in a foam board on his bathroom window. His living room windows were fully covered. He quickly took his family out, realizing the tower next door was burning. 4. The building and its people. Wangfu Court stood in Taipo, an older housing estate that dated back to the early 1980s. It was a big complex, made up of 8 tall residential blocks, holding almost 2,000 homes. For many years, Wangfu Court offered affordable housing. It was a place for lower and middle-income families to own their homes and build their lives. Over 4 decades, many different people lived in the estate. There were working-class individuals and young families starting out. A large number of the residents were elderly. These were often people who had bought their flats when the buildings were first built in the 1980s and 1990s. They had stayed in their homes for many years, becoming part of the community and watching the area change around them. Wangfu Court was known for its good location, close to public transport and pleasant paths for walking and cycling by the Tolo Harbor waterfront. It was a settled, quiet place for its residents. Before the tragic fire, Wangfu Court was undergoing a major repair project. This big renovation had started in the middle of 2024 and was still ongoing. It was designed to fix the outside parts of the buildings, including the facades and windows and other general refurbishment. The project was substantial, costing around 330 million Hong Kong dollars. Because of this extensive work, the buildings looked very different for a long time. For many months, they were almost completely covered. Strong bamboo scaffolding surrounded each tower from top to bottom. Over the bamboo, green safety nets were stretched tight, forming a temporary skin around the residential blocks. This site became a normal part of daily life for everyone in the area, a constant reminder of the ongoing changes. While it was a sign of necessary improvements, the prolonged presence of the scaffolding and nets was sometimes a topic of discussion among the people who lived there, about the noise, the dust, or the blocked views. The renovation was meant to bring new life to the old estate, making it modern and safe for its longtime residents and newer families alike, aiming to extend its life for many more years. 5. The police make arrests. The police started their work to find out why the big fire happened. They began a full investigation. Quickly, they focused on the company that was doing the repair work at Wangfu Court. This company was called Prestige Construction and Engineering Company. Soon, the police arrested 3 important people from this company. These were 2 directors and 1 engineering consultant. They were between 50 and 70 years old. The police believe these 3 people are guilty of manslaughter. This means they think the company's serious carelessness led to many deaths. A senior police officer said that the company's gross negligence allowed the fire to spread too fast, causing a huge loss of life. Investigators found some important problems with the materials used. They believe the construction company used materials that could burn easily. These materials were part of the renovation work on the outside of the buildings. For example, the protective nets, films, and plastic sheets that covered the buildings might not have met fire safety rules. There were also foam boards, like styrofoam, used to seal areas around windows. These boards were identified by investigators as very flammable. Police think this combination of bamboo scaffolding, burning nets, and foam boards created a chimney effect. This effect pulled the fire very quickly up and across the buildings. The police searched the company's offices very carefully. They took many things like important papers, lists of employees, computers, and mobile phones. These items will help them understand what happened and who is responsible. They also went with one of the arrested suspects to his home to look for more evidence that could help their case. It was not only the police who started an investigation. Hong Kong's Independent Commission Against Corruption, or ICAC, also began to look into the case. The ICAC is a special group that fights against corruption in the city. They announced that they launched a task force to investigate any possible corruption linked to the Wong Fuk Court renovation project. The project cost a lot of money, about HKC $330 million. The ICAC will check how the company got the contract for the work. They will also look to see if any bad dealings or irregularities affected the choice of building materials, or if rules were not followed because of corruption. This shows that the city is very serious about finding all the reasons for this terrible fire and holding people accountable. 6. Looking for mistakes. The fire at Wong Fuk Court spread with shocking speed. Many people asked why this happened so fast. Experts started to look closely at the building and the materials used for its repair work. They soon found a dangerous mix of things that helped the fire grow very quickly and uncontrollably. Firstly, the temporary structure around the building was made of bamboo scaffolding. Bamboo is a strong material, common in Hong Kong, and easy to build. But it can burn easily. Secondly, the buildings were covered with plastic nets and safety sheeting. If these materials were not designed to stop fire, they would also catch fire quickly. Thirdly, foam boards were used in many places, like sealing gaps around windows. These foam boards ignite fast and burn with high heat. This combination of flammable bamboo, plastic nets, and foam boards turned the outside of the buildings into a giant fuel source for the fire. The design of the scaffolding also played a big part in the fire's rapid spread. There was a narrow space, about half a meter wide, between the building's outer walls and the scaffolding. This tight space created a chimney effect. It pulled hot gases and flames upwards very quickly. As the fire climbed fast up the building's exterior, burning pieces of material fell. These falling pieces then spread the fire to other parts of the same tower and even to neighboring buildings. In this way, the renovation work's protective cover created a connected path for the fire to travel in 3 dimensions. Hong Kong has guidelines for safety in construction. For example, the Labor Department has a code of practice that says nets and plastic sheeting should resist fire. However, these are often just guidelines, not strict laws. This means it can be harder to enforce them every day. If the materials used at Wong Fuk Court did not meet these standards, it might have been because the rules were not strong enough or they were not properly checked. This also made people question if the safety standards themselves were good enough for large, tall buildings. The construction company, Prestige Construction and Engineering, which was responsible for the renovation, had a history of safety problems. Records show that in 2023, the company was fined for breaking safety rules on another building project. This history raises serious concerns about the company's commitment to safety. It also makes people wonder if fines and warnings are enough to make sure companies follow important safety rules, especially on big projects. This terrible combination of easily burning materials, the chimney effect from the scaffolding, possibly weak safety rules, and a construction company with previous safety problems all contributed to why the fire spread so terribly fast and caused such a huge loss of life. 7. A city's big questions. The terrible fire in Tai Po made Hong Kong think about big questions. One main question is about bamboo scaffolding. This material is used a lot in Hong Kong for building work. It is strong and cheap, but it can also burn easily. After the fire, many people are asking if it is still safe for tall buildings. The government already planned to use more metal scaffolding for new public projects. This was for worker safety. But the Tai Po fire shows that more changes might be needed. Some people believe bamboo scaffolding should not be used on very tall residential buildings at all. Others say that stopping its use too quickly could cause problems for builders and raise costs. It could also mean many skilled workers lose their jobs. The city needs to find a balance between old ways and new safety needs. Many old buildings in Hong Kong need repairs, just like Wong Fuk Court. This housing estate was built over 40 years ago. Many other buildings from that time also need big repair projects. These projects often cover buildings in scaffolding and nets for many months. This can make the buildings more dangerous if there is a fire. The government has promised to check all buildings that are currently being renovated. But this fire highlights a bigger problem for the city's old housing. This fire makes people remember other big fires. In 1996, the Garley building in Hong Kong also had a deadly fire. That fire also involved bamboo scaffolding. It led to new fire safety rules. Now people ask if those lessons were truly learned. People also compare this fire to the Grenfell Tower fire in London in 2017. In that fire, unsafe outer materials helped the fire spread. The same kind of problem with dangerous materials on the outside of buildings happened in Taipo. Before the fire, some people who lived in Wang Fuk Court had concerns. They saw the materials being used for the renovation. They thought the nets and foam looked unsafe and could burn easily. Some residents even told the authorities, like the Labor Department, about their worries. The department said it had checked the site many times and told the company to improve safety. But the fire still happened. This makes people wonder if these warnings were taken seriously enough. It shows a problem where people's safety concerns might not lead to real changes in time. The city now faces difficult questions. How can it make sure buildings are safe during renovations? How can it balance tradition with new safety needs? And how can it ensure that people's warnings are heard and acted upon before another disaster happens? 8. What happens next? The terrible fire in Taipo was a very sad event for Hong Kong. It brought much pain and loss. Many lives were lost, and the city felt a deep shock. This disaster makes everyone think carefully about building safety again. It shows us that we must be extremely careful when we build new homes or fix old ones. The memories of the burning towers and the people who suffered will stay with the city for a long time. There are still many important questions that need answers. People want to know the exact cause of the fire. Did it start from a small accident, an electrical problem, or something else? They also want to understand if the fire alarms, sprinklers, and escape routes inside the buildings worked properly. How many people are truly gone, and how many are still missing? Finding these answers is very important for the families and for the future of the city. The police have already arrested 3 senior people from the construction company. They are suspected of a serious crime called manslaughter because they might have been very careless. The legal case against them will be long and complex. Besides this, many families who lost loved ones or their homes might also take legal action in court. Everyone hopes to find justice for those who suffered so much. This fire clearly shows an urgent need for new and stronger laws. Hong Kong needs better rules for all building materials, especially for those used on the outside of buildings during renovation work. The government has promised to quickly inspect all public and subsidized housing estates that are currently being repaired. They will check the scaffolding, protective nets, and other materials very closely. There is also talk about changing the rules for using bamboo scaffolding, perhaps moving to safer metal structures for big projects. Safety checks across all construction sites will be much stricter now. This tragedy is a very strong reminder for everyone. It tells us that building safety is not just a rule, it is about protecting lives. We must learn from this fire to make sure that such a terrible event never happens again in Hong Kong or anywhere else. What do you think is the most important change Hong Kong should make after this terrible fire to keep its people safe?
Hey there! Just a second before you go. If you learned something new today, please give this video a like. write your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to the channel. It only takes a second, and it really, really helps to create even better English videos for you. Your support means the world. Thank you.